Hello and welcome to Biber Hunter Scale Models. This time I have a special and different video compared to the ones you are used to see on this channel. And if you are curious what's so different and special this time, please stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to this, like I said, different and special kind of video you are usually used to see on my channel. And the reason for this special video is lying on my workbench, the Gaahleri Barbatos Rex. The friendly people from Gaahleri offered me to test one of their airbrushes, and as I didn't find my perfect match here, I was more than interested. And I decided on the Barbatos Rex because of its shape. It has this pistol style handle and trigger, and that was very interesting for me because I never felt comfortable with this traditional style airbrush, especially after using them longer when maybe painting or priming a scale model tank in 1/35 scale, what can take several hours, and I always had pain in my finger or cramps in my hand. And I'm hoping that this shaped airbrush will help me there and get a better feeling for my airbrush, and I guess it's more comfortable. And yeah, in this special video I want to introduce to you the Barbatos Rex with all the accessories that comes with it, and I want to share my experience. I have some pieces like this 1/10 scale bust I want to prime and pre-color, and we will do some bigger pieces. And yeah, I have a 10% surprise for you if this or any other Gaahleri airbrush is interesting for you, but we talk about this later. Now let's have a look at this thing. It comes in this cool box with the exploded view in the lid. This is very interesting if you have to disassemble or reassemble it for cleaning. It also comes with a few spare parts like these O-rings, so you have a better idea where to put these things, and yeah, this is always helpful. It comes with 3 different sized needles and nozzles. The smallest one is a 0.28 needle and nozzle, good for finer work. It has a 0.5 needle and nozzle, and even a 0.7 needle and nozzle for bigger work like diorama priming or painting. And in this video I want to show how I used every size on different pieces. It comes with 2 different sized paint cups, and I guess the bigger one is useful when using the 0.7 needle and nozzle. It comes with some lube, and the instruction is showing us where to put this. And then we have the airbrush itself. It comes with this protection cover on the front, and the first impression is it's heavy, it's solid, feels like a high quality piece, and the handle is plastic, but this is all metal. It comes with this quick disconnect, what cannot be taken for granted. This is actually the first airbrush I got where this is included. It comes with a closed needle guard, no openings on the side, and I always like and prefer this style of needle guard because you can easily close it and then let the air flow back into the paint cup, which is always helpful for cleaning or mixing the paint in the paint cup, and you can easily remove it by unscrewing it, and can work like this for very fine work. But of course you have to be very careful with the needle here, and this is an advantage to compare to different airbrushes I have where you cannot remove the needle guard without removing the nozzle. So I always prefer this type of airbrushes where you can actually remove the needle guard without disassembling the whole airbrush. The nozzle cap can also be removed by screwing, and here we have a big nozzle. It has this grab surface, so you can just pull it off no tools required. And yeah, very easy and satisfying solution. To put it back, I just place the nozzle inside of the nozzle cap. Carefully put it back and just screw it carefully with the needle guard. The paint cup is actually screwed into place, but it's a very good and safe solution. Other airbrushes where you plug the cup in place, you know, they always leak some paint after time, and screwing them in place is actually way more safer and you don't have to worry about paint spilling out. I usually don't use the lids on these cups. The inside of the cup has a mirrored surface, so it's easier to clean and you can better see how much paint is left inside the cup. At the back we have the regulator where you can adjust how far you can pull the trigger back, and with that adjust the amount of paint which is coming out on the front. Yeah, this piece is actually plastic here. One of the few plastic parts I found so far. Yeah, I'm excited to test this piece now. I'm hoping that this will be way more comfortable than a traditional airbrush, because I think it supports the natural position of a hand. I hope it will comfort my hand, and basically all you have to move is the index finger back and forth, what is way different compared to holding a traditional airbrush where you have to push the trigger down and pull it back. And yeah, I'm very curious to find out how it feels after several hours of using it. First, let's connect the air hose and let's talk about the general use. If you pull back the trigger slightly to the first resistance, the air starts flowing but no paint. This is actually the same like pushing down the trigger on a traditional airbrush. And if you now pull it further, the paint would start to flow. This is the point where you could regulate how far back you can pull the trigger. What I'm going to do now is I will mount the 0.5 needle and nozzle, and then after some test spraying on a piece of paper I will prime this piece. And yeah, I'm curious how the 0.5 needle will work for that, and let's switch the needle. So the 0.5 needle is good to go, and let's get some paint. Okay, I will now use this lacquer-based primer. They spray pretty smooth usually, diluted with leveling thinner, and the ratio is 60% primer and 40% thinner. So let's see what happens now. Okay, I will first check on a piece of paper how the spray pattern is. Okay, it's looking pretty smooth. That's actually finer than I expected for a 0.5 nozzle. Okay, let's go full throttle. Okay. I started with carefully applying the primer with very few paint flow to see how the airbrush and primer behave. I was a bit scared to flood the bust by giving away too much paint, but that didn't happen. I had very good control over the amount of the applied primer with the movement of my index finger, and so I started to work my way around the piece. After some time I became braver and moved the trigger a bit further back, giving away more paint. It worked pretty well and the sprayed surface looked smooth and clean. As hoped and expected, this lacquer-based primer was no problem for the airbrush. On the helmet I became even braver and started with more paint flow, priming this piece faster but as clean and smooth like the bust. Of course I here made sure to not flood the piece and overdo the application, but I again had very good control over the paint flow. And even the small parts like the Panzerfaust or the braids were no problem to prime with the 0.5 nozzle. I really had more control here compared to my traditional airbrush with a 0.4 nozzle with a more comfortable holding position. And after priming all these pieces, the paint cup was still around half filled, so the Barbatos Rex was way less thirsty than expected, and that also proved that I really had good control over the applied paint. So the next step will be pre-coloring the face of the bust, and for that I mixed me this tone from these acrylic paints. And acrylic paints are always harder to spray than lacquer-based paints or real colors, Tamiya paints. So this will be kind of a hardcore test, so to say. I diluted the paint even more. It's maybe 20% paint, 80% thinner. And the pressure will be much lower compared to priming. I switched to the 0.28 needle to be more precise here. And let's see what happens here. Okay, let's go to the spray booth. After some more pressure adjusting at the beginning, I again carefully started to apply the first paint here, working my way over the skin areas, building up a covering layer of the base paint or shadow paint. As feared and partly expected, the airbrush had some more problems with this paint and the nozzle had some clogging from time to time, although the paint was thinned a lot. But because of that I had to work with very low pressure here. But it wasn't really bad or worse than with my other airbrushes. In the end the result was super smooth and clean. No spitting or blobs of too much paint, so in the end I would say it was a successful try. To pre-color the jacket I used AK's real colors with a matching thinner. I started with applying the shadow paint as a base paint over the whole piece, so there was no need to be super accurate here and I could get used to the paint's behavior. And to protect the face from overspray or accidents I masked it off with masking putty. Almost like I expected it, I had no problems here with clogging, had good control over the application and amount of used paint, and the handling was again very comfortable. The thing that's maybe worth mentioning is that aiming is a bit different compared to a traditional airbrush because of the different holding position. But that's only a matter of minutes to get used to. This is the result of the pre-coloring. The finish is pretty smooth and clean. Like I said, spraying the acrylic paints was more challenging and I had some clogging. But I guess this is more a problem with the acrylic paints itself. I never had fun spraying acrylic paints and this is no different here. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't better than usual. But if you look at the face, the finish is very smooth, no spitting, no paint blobs, very smooth finish. The result is really good. Same with the jacket where I used the real colors, very smooth and very fine finish. And the spraying itself was as comfortable as I hoped it would be. It was better for my hand. I had no pain in my trigger finger, no cramps in the back of my hand. It was just like I hoped it would be. So for the next test I want to try spraying German camouflage. And for that I got me these styrene sheets, primed and sprayed with Dunkelgelb as the base paint, and now I want to use the Olivgrün and Rotbraun to spray a camouflage freehand. I will dilute the paint with Modeler's World Dr. Finest Leveling Thinner, and this is actually maybe good to know for you. This leveling thinner works with the Tamiya paints, X, XF and the lacquer paints, with the Mr. Hobby paints, AK Real Colors and also Hataka and MRP. And this is pretty awesome. You just need one thinner for all these paints. You can also dilute the Mr. Surfacer with this stuff, and actually spraying the real colors works better for me when using this thinner compared to the dedicated thinner by AK. So maybe check it out. It's really good stuff and it improves the spraying experience, at least for me. So I now want to try to create a 3-tone camouflage pattern, and let's get back to the spray booth. I used one of the sheets as a testing piece to try out different pressure settings and get a feeling for the thinner paint ratio. I also removed the needle guard this time, as I wanted to try to spray as fine as possible. I then grabbed me the second sheet and started to spray the green spots of this camouflage pattern. I started carefully with very few paint flow to build up the pattern in several thin layers, similar to the one I painted on my Sturmgeschütz I made a few months ago. When my confidence grew, I increased the paint flow and finished the green spots. This was then repeated with the red-brown paint. First start on the testing piece to get a feeling for the pressure and paint behavior, and then spray the pattern on the second sheet in several layers, building it up until I was satisfied with the look and coverage. So this is the result of my camouflage spraying. This was my test piece where I played around with different pressures and tried to get a feeling for the paint and the airbrush, and then I tried to spray this pattern. Actually, I think it's okay. If you are doing mainly smaller jobs like this or even finer stuff, you can think about choosing a different airbrush. Gaahleri has these trigger type style airbrushes with smaller nozzles. Maybe with some more practice I could improve my result here, but I like the combination here with the 0.5 and 0.7 nozzles to use on bigger pieces. So it's not that bad. I like the result. I think it would work on a 1/35 scale tank. Yeah, so much to spraying a camouflage. So for the last test I quickly built me this small base for a vehicle, and I will now base paint it with Tamiya paints. I will use the 0.7 nozzle to base paint it with black, and I'm very curious how thirsty the airbrush will be with the biggest nozzle and how much paint it will take me, and I will then use the 0.28 nozzle to pre-color the grass and probably the 0.5 nozzle to pre-color the ground. To get a feeling for the big 0.7 nozzle, I again started on a piece of paper and then started to base paint the frame of the scene in black. I again started slowly with few paint flow, but I quickly realized that I could go heavier here, because even with the biggest 0.7 nozzle I had very good control over the amount of applied paint. It took me less than 4 minutes to apply the first round of black paint to the frame, what is pretty awesome when thinking about how long this would have taken me with my traditional airbrushes with a 0.4 nozzle. I then started to paint the upper side black, and I here started a bit more carefully again to not flood the grass tufts and ground with too much paint. I worked very accurate and thorough to hit every space in between the longer and shorter grass tufts, so no raw materials were shining through anymore. I used the bigger paint cup here and filled it completely, and as I still had a lot of paint in it, at this point I made additional passes over the frame until it got darker. As this is only a foundation for later brushwork, I would have stopped here with my traditional airbrush, but because I had so much fun here, I thought I might as well use the paint that was already in the cup and make the frame darker. In the end, it took me less than 20 minutes to paint the whole piece in a deep and saturated black, what is absolutely amazing. I then started to pre-color the grass, and I here again used the 0.28 nozzle to be more accurate and avoid overspray as much as possible. After a dark green base paint, I lightened up the grass with several lighter layers, and because the smaller the painted areas were, the lighter the paint became, I was glad that I again had very good control over the applied paint. For the earthen part, I switched to the 0.5 nozzle, what had the best of both worlds, good coverage on the bigger naked center part and accuracy for spraying the ground in between the grass parts. I again was impressed here how precise I could spray the ground in between the grass without having to worry to flood the grass with the brown paint. So that's the result of pre-coloring the base. Like I said, it took me less than 20 minutes to base paint this whole piece with black paint, and I was really thorough and made sure to hit every spot in between the grass tufts. I took the time that I needed to make sure that this piece is really good covered in a black base paint. Earlier with my traditional airbrushes, this would have been a job I wouldn't be looking forward to, because it would have taken me so much longer. I was sure that my hand would be useless after this because of the pain and the cramps, and actually this was way more fun than I expected. I used the big paint cup here. It's around 20 milliliters or 2/3 ounces, I think it's in the not metric system. So I needed only half of the paint, half of this paint cup, to base paint it in black. For the size of this piece, this is pretty good. And I used a 0.7 nozzle, so a pretty big one, and still just half a cup of paint. Yeah, that's pretty awesome to me. Not to speak about the comfort, and that's basically the most important point to me, that I had fun using my airbrush here. I used the small nozzle, the 0.28, for pre-coloring the grass. I was really precise here again, and for the earthen parts I used the 0.5 nozzle, what was good in the center, where I had to cover a big area, a big surface with a lot of paint, and I was precise enough in between the grass tufts to just hit the ground. This is a pretty good foundation for the later brushwork and to finish this piece. Okay, for the last part of this video, I want to show you how I clean the airbrush. I'm not saying that this is the only and perfect way, but this is how I do it. We have the paint leftovers in the cup. If there's any paint left after spraying, I empty the cup into a small jar like these, where I mix the paint. And this is a box of alcohol or isopropanol, and this is the same stuff. And I'm using this for almost any paint, acrylic paints, lacquer paints, real colors. This is pretty universal stuff. So I fill some of it into the cup and use a brush to clean any leftover paint here. Give it a good stir. And usually I would do the following steps in my spray booth, but for this video I'm doing it here on my workbench, and I hope I won't die. I then block the needle guard and let the air flow back into the paint cup. So the air can flow back into the paint cup and get the paint and alcohol moving. And I would then, in my spray booth, empty the airbrush in this glass jar where is the filter, so there should only be clean air coming out. Okay, that's looking better already, but I will do a second run. Pure alcohol, mix it a bit, let the bubbles bubble, and empty the airbrush. Okay, and now I will start to disassemble the airbrush to clean every part. Like I said, this is a container filled with alcohol, and this is pretty helpful if you maybe just had a 2-hour airbrush session and you are not in the mood of immediately cleaning your airbrush, or you're in a hurry. You can disassemble it and place all the single parts inside the alcohol so the paint won't dry, and you can clean the airbrush afterwards, maybe after a few hours or overnight. You have to be careful with the O-rings, the sealings. I had airbrushes, mostly cheaper ones. They didn't like the alcohol bath. I'm not sure about this. I have no long-time experience. My Harder and Steenbeck airbrush was fine with this. The O-rings were not affected. Right now I don't have long-time experience how the O-rings and sealings react to a longer alcohol bath. But I will now show you an immediate cleaning. I start with removing the paint cup. It's looking not that bad already after the initial cleaning. Okay, after removing the quick disconnect, I can remove the handle. And the extension rod, and now I'm going to remove the needle cap, place it into the alcohol, because the front is paint affected and I want to give them a clean. Okay, the nozzle is inside the cap. There it is. Now you obviously have to be careful because the needle is naked here. Remove the paint regulator, and now I can loosen the needle. And now that's important to me. I push the needle to the front. I'm not pulling it backwards because obviously there's paint on the front of the needle. And if I pull the needle back, I would pull the paint through the whole airbrush. So I always pull the needle out front, and you can see the paint is on the front end of the needle. So pulling the needle out to the front avoids that you pull the paint through the whole airbrush. This is the point where I would stop for a quick cleaning, maybe after several paint changes, or I want to use it in 1 or 2 hours again. But for a thorough cleaning, I will disassemble it completely now. And for this, I remove the back part. And to remove the trigger, I need a small screwdriver. To disassemble this piece completely, it's actually more work compared to other airbrushes, but as the spraying experience and the comfort is so good, this is okay for me. Okay, we have this screw here. And after removing that, I need a bigger screwdriver. Okay, and now I can remove the trigger counterpiece, and now I can reach the inside of the airbrush and give it a clean too. So this will land in here for a second, and I'm using toilet paper to clean the small parts. Toilet paper is perfect for cleaning, for brush cleaning too, because it's soft, it's cheap, it comes in these small pieces, and yeah, toilet paper is great. Okay, I will now start to clean every piece individually, and Q-tips are helpful here too. I'm always trying to avoid to get my bare hands into the alcohol, because obviously my skin wouldn't be very happy if especially if I'm doing this for years or decades. Okay, be extra careful for the needle. To clean the nozzle, I use the alcohol bottle and push the alcohol against the flowing direction, so it pushes remaining paint out to the back and not into the small opening at the front. In German we would say rückspülen. And the biggest and last piece. And now I can clean the inside with the Q-tip and the counterpart of the trigger from the inside. That's the reason I disassembled it completely. And here is the point where to apply the lube, what I showed you in the beginning of the video. And obviously after this bath in alcohol, I can apply some new lube. I'm just applying a small amount here. Now I will clean the main piece. I will now flush the front, use a Q-tip to clean the inside, and with a small brush I will clean the channel, the paint channel. Yeah, to reassemble the airbrush I will start with the slider. The spring. This brass piece had a small hole with a thread, and I will now place it in here and screw it until the holes are matching. And now you can see the hole in the brass piece is centered in the screw hole, and I can now fix it in place. Okay, next I'm going to assemble the trigger. This whole process might look complicated and much work, and like I said, it is more work than maybe on other airbrush types, but it's nothing that's undoable, and yeah, the comfort and the user experience is worth it. Okay, now let me place this here for better handling. Okay, now before I mount the nozzle, I will take the needle and very carefully guide it and pull it through the airbrush one time, so I can see if there is any paint remaining inside the airbrush. But the toilet paper is clean, so I did a good job, I hope. So I will now mount the nozzle and the nozzle cap. Yeah, it's centered, the needle guard. Whoop. And now I can put the needle in place again very carefully to not damage the small front. Okay, it's looking out on the front. Okay, almost done. Paint regulator. And paint cup. Yeah, and that's basically it. It was maybe, I'm not sure, 10 minutes, 15 at maximum. Yeah, I will now do a functional test if everything's working as it's supposed to be. And this is blowing out the remaining alcohol from the inside. And okay, let's see if it's working as it's supposed to be. Again, I would usually do this test in my spray booth. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, time for some final thoughts, and I can really say I like it. And I wouldn't say that if I wouldn't really feel it. And I'm no airbrush expert. You maybe noticed this in the last 25 or 30 minutes, depending how long this video will be. It's not like I had 20 or 30 airbrushes in my life, so I can only tell you from what I experienced here. I can not say any details about the quality of the used pieces or materials. All I can say is that to me it makes a good impression. Like I said at the beginning, most of the airbrush are metal parts except for the handle or the regulator here. The most important points why I like this airbrush are the handling. Like I said in the past, I wasn't looking forward to using my airbrushes even for smaller jobs like painting or pre-coloring a 1/35 figure, because the handling was something I always had problems with. This really changed with this piece. It's way more comfortable holding it like this and just moving the index finger. Another point why I like this model is because of the 3 different nozzle and needle sizes. I could do most of the jobs I usually do, like priming, base painting, pre-coloring a diorama or a base like this. I can do a camouflage on a vehicle, and I can do finer jobs like pre-coloring a bust, pre-coloring a 1/35 figure should be no problem with this model. Of course, I have no long time experience using it, but I used it for several hours now, painting and pre-coloring these pieces. And yeah, I think I can say after using it for several hours that at least the comfort is great, the precision is great, the amount of paint needed to paint and pre-color these pieces are better than I expected. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I have a 10% surprise, and that would be a 10% discount code on this or any other airbrush Gaahleri is producing. So if you are interested in the Barbatos Rex or any other airbrush Gaahleri is producing, go check out the description of this video. There is an affiliate link where you can order directly from Gaahleri, and you will also support me, because every airbrush that is sold over this link will bring me a 5% share, and this would be much appreciated, so I can resupply with some paints or brushes or whatever I need to continue building and painting. And yes, thank you in advance if you are using this link. And there are also 2 Amazon links to the Gaahleri Amazon shop and to the Barbatos Rex on Amazon. So if you are interested and this is looking good to you, make sure to check out the description. And yeah, if you made it until here, I really thank you. I know that this was a different type of video what you are usually used to see here. I was really happy Gaahleri reached out to me and gave me this opportunity, and not only to test the airbrush but also with the affiliate link. And this really helped me a lot to improve my airbrush experience, and I wanted to share my experience with you, and maybe you are in the same situation I was, not enjoying airbrush work, and this could really help and improve it. The next video will be a classic scale modeling video. Yeah, this was also new and difficult to do for me too, because as you might have noticed, I'm not a native English speaker, and yeah, my English is not the yellow of the egg, as we say, but I think I got the message delivered, and I'm sure my German viewers have bleeding ears now, and I'm looking forward to your comments, Freunde, and yeah, let me know what you think about this video, and if I destroyed your trust in me or if you liked it. And thank you again for your patience and for watching, and make sure to check out the Gaahleri airbrushes. Bye bye.